Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 596 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our sixth book just came out. It's called I'm So Beautiful, It's Ridiculous: Unleashing and Promoting Strength, Self-Worth, and Real Sisterhood. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes& Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, Greek University has speakers and consultants that work with college students all over the nation, but we also have a publishing arm that is called Greek University Publishing. There, we've published 8 books. So please let us know if there is a book that you want to bring to market. As Toni Morrison once said, if there is a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Our next guest is Armida Espinoza, a first-generation Mexican-American and a retired bilingual teacher. Armida hopes to write stories that shed light on second language learners' academic and emotional challenges, meeting them where they are and validating their reality. Armida hopes that second language learners might glean insight from her experiences on how to walk through their fears and insecurities in life by providing them with techniques that can help them manage their inner voice. Armida is a member of the International Society of Latino Authors, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, the Authors Guild, and an alumni of the children's book Masterclass program and publishing Mastermind with Miriam Laundry Publishing Company. Armida lives in Fresno, California with her husband Leonard and 3 furry friends, Luna, Soul, and Cutie Boy. Welcome to the show, Armida.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
Fantastic. It is wonderful to have you on the show. I think you have so much great information for our college students to hear. But first, let's talk about college. You chose Cal State Fresno for your undergraduate experience. You could have gone to a whole bunch of universities, I would imagine. Why was Cal State Fresno your choice?
Well, interesting enough that you would say that I could have gone to any college, but I got to tell you, when I graduated from high school, I was probably reading about fourth grade level. So I could not have gone to any college. I started at community college and just had to start with bare bone English and just, work my way up. But when I finally got enough classes and felt my confidence level had gone up, I was able to transfer to Fresno State, where I was living at the time.
Fantastic. Well, that is a good story, and I'm sure it was a lot about confidence with you more than anything. But that's fantastic that it worked out at Cal State Fresno. So you've gone from struggling with reading in high school to becoming now an international award-winning author. So what was that pivotal moment when you decided you were going to rewrite your own story?
I got to tell you, this was never on the radar. Never. When I tell you I was reading at fourth grade level when I graduated from high school.
Mhm.
It all really started with an experience that I had in first grade where I was asked to recite my ABCs. I got stuck at G and the embarrassment and the shame. And what happened to me at that time is that negative voice that we all have with us for a lifetime, popped in, told me I wasn't smart, and it basically, and I believed it, right? I let it get the best of me. And so academically, I was very weak because I basically thought I will just do the best that I can on my own without asking for help because I didn't want to put myself in that embarrassing situation again. So I got to tell you a fun fact. I mean, it's actually a sad fact, but it's actually, I think about it now. People often ask me, did you cheat in school? And I go, of course I cheated. I cheated throughout elementary, middle school, high school, because my confidence was so low. I didn't have any, and academically, I kept getting further and further behind every year because I was just trying to do it on my own without asking for help. That, I had to cheat. There was no way out, right?
Hmm.
So, but I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I knew that it was a survival skill that kicked in and I went with it.
Yeah, it's so
So,
fascinating to me. I mean, you having that experience as a student and now you're a retired bilingual teacher. So, I'm wondering now you have that unique perspective of teaching. What did your teaching experience give you in terms of how early self-doubt, like you had when you were a kid, can take root in these children?
Yes, I saw it all the time. I saw it
Mm.
every day in children because I could see their shoulders shrugged, not making eye contact with the teacher because that's what we do when academically you're really low. When the teacher's asking for volunteers, I was never going to raise my hand. Never in my life was I going to raise my hand for fear that I was going to be wrong and didn't know, I didn't have the confidence, right? So I saw that in the children all the time, all
Yeah.
the time. My heart went out to them, but um, you know, we all have that negative voice that stays with us whenever we're lifelong learners.
Mm.
Whenever we're learning something new, that voice will pop up, I guarantee you.
Hmm.
And so what we do with that voice is the pivotal point of our lives, right? How are we going to move forward? Are we going to move forward or are we going to stay stuck and listening to that voice?
Yeah. It's interesting because you can recognize it almost immediately as a teacher because you knew from your own experiences as a student what that looks like. So you can immediately say, all right, I know exactly what that student is going through. And you
Yes.
talk about confidence a lot and this confidence crisis that impacts people not only in the classrooms, but even in the corporate world as well. So I'm wondering, maybe it's like the slumped, shoulders or something like that. What are some of those signs that somebody is really struggling?
Right. So, for children, it's really obvious because I
Mm.
mean, they will come out and say, I don't know, I'll never be able to do this. I mean, they verbalize it, right? But for college students, I mean, I did this myself, right? Or in the corporate world, you don't you see folks that they've got it in them. You know it. I mean, because when you're one-on-one or things will come out of their mouths, and sharing here or there, they've got some knowledge and they're bright, right? And they've got some ideas and their ideas are good. But put them in a big group and they will be silent as can be. They will not put themselves out there because of their low level of confidence and just that fear that they're going to make a fool of themselves, right?
Mm.
And nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to, but, and yet, oftentimes, when we hear somebody give an opinion or an idea, and then you think, I had that idea. That was my idea, but I didn't say it, right? Because I didn't have the confidence. And then we keep beating ourselves up, right? Because it's
Mhm.
like, dang it, I should have done it, Armida, you just don't fit in. This is not your place, right? It's like we're constantly beating ourselves up, and we do that all the time.
Mm. There's this fine line there. I'm wondering how can the college students who are listening right now recognize the difference between what I think is healthy humility, right? I think having humility is a really good trait, but there's a line between that and harmful self-doubt. So how can you recognize the difference between those two?
Yeah, and I think the way I think about it is we really have to get into a habit of just checking in what we're thinking on a regular basis. We're bombarded with millions of things that are coming at us and millions of things are running through our head. And so I have this little bracelet and on it it says, "What are you thinking?" Whenever I look at that little bracelet, just at any time of the day, I have to stop myself and I ask myself, what am I thinking? Is that at that moment, was that thought a negative thought? Was it, breaking me down, or was it a thought that was serving me well? Because
That's
if it was a
important.
negative thought, I quickly switch it to something positive and then I just move on. And I think we have to first become aware of those thoughts that are constantly in our heads that we're not paying attention to. And we're
Yeah.
just letting them, we think to ourselves, you know what? Let them come, let them go. But you know what? Those thoughts, if we don't change them, they're breaking us down.
Yeah.
They're breaking us down.
I think it's important for all of the listeners to understand that this is something that, happens to everybody. I think that's number one, right? It's not just you. In our
Definitely.
minds, we think that it's just us, but it's not. It's everybody. And there's also something out there that's called imposter syndrome. And basically, you always encourage people to welcome and befriend they're imposter. And what's funny about this is that I wrote a doctoral dissertation, right, on hazing prevention, and I still feel like imposter syndrome will creep in, even though I've done more research on hazing prevention than, 99.9% of the population. And yet still imposter syndrome creeps in. So for somebody who's always been told to silence, this imposter syndrome, what's the first step in making that mental shift?
So again, first we've got to be more cognizant of our thoughts
Hmm.
that are running through our head. Because if you start realizing how many negative thoughts that are popping into your head randomly that are making you feel less confident in yourself, and when we can catch ourselves and switch that thought, then that's a big, big step because now you're you're controlling the narrative. You're controlling the narrative and you're switching your thoughts. You're switching your thoughts. You're switching your thoughts to positive thoughts. Now, keep in mind that the imposter syndrome is there's a sense that that maybe something's going to go wrong, that you're going to be hurt, or it's not all bad, because when you have a gut, feeling in your gut like something's not right, you need to listen to that voice, that inner voice, right? But then a lot of times that inner voice is holding you back, not because something is going to happen to you bad. It's just holding you back because it doesn't want you to put yourself out there for fear that you're going to fail. And it's that type of voice. When you hear that voice, you just kind of go, look, you know what? I may not know the answer, but I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to put myself out there or I'm going to ask for help because that's the only way I'm going to move forward. So then you start negotiating with that voice, right?
Hmm.
You listen to it when you really think, okay, I really need to be, not walking down that alley at night by myself, right? When that voice is saying, hey, hey, what are you doing? But at the same time, when that voice is saying, you know what? Raise your hand, go out there. I mean, don't do, well, initially it's telling you, don't do it. Keep that hand down. Don't put yourself out there. That's when you have to start negotiating, go, wait, no, no, not now. I'm not, I don't get to listen to you. You don't get to determine what I'm going to do next in this particular situation. So we start having to develop a relationship with that voice that is going to benefit us and move us forward.
Okay, I like that. Let's talk about a specific example because, I think social media, unfortunately, has created a lot of this negative self-talk in our minds. I can be scrolling through Instagram and see somebody's photo and they're perfectly in shape right out of the gym. They have a six pack, muscles, the whole thing. And I could look at that and say, man, I really wish that I looked like that. If I had a body like that, then I could do all kinds of things. So let's imagine that we're on social media and we see that and we feel those things. What is an exercise or a mental habit that you would recommend for replacing all of that negative self-talk that's happening in our head with something that's more empowering?
Yes. So okay. So you see a picture and you just go, oh my God, six pack, right?
Yeah,
And then we look at ourselves and go, no, nothing happening here, right?
right.
And it's at that moment, if you become more aware of those thoughts that are popping in randomly, if you catch yourself at that moment, because it becomes a habit for you to start checking to see what are you thinking at this moment. So the
Mhm.
minute that thought, jumps out at you, like, okay, they've got the six pack, they've got it all, the world, they've got the world at the palm of their hands. You have nothing, right? Because you don't have the six pack.
Right.
It's like, you think to yourself, you know what? I don't may not have it yet, but I'm gonna work towards it, right? And then just I don't have it yet, but I'm gonna go to the exercise or I'm gonna keep pushing myself, right?
Hmm.
Just that minor change switches that whole narrative because then you're not beating yourself up. Okay, yeah, they have it, you don't, but yet you don't have it yet.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to fall into that trap. I mean, you look at these photos on social media, maybe they're driving a BMW, so I want that BMW and I could say, all right, maybe I don't have that yet, but
Yes.
plans in place that one day I will
Yeah.
also have a BMW.
Yeah, I mean, because for the most part, most of us didn't grow up with that, and I mean, at the palm of our hands, right? I mean,
Right.
that most of us aren't given a BMW. So,
No.
but it's like the people that push through that negative talk, and the people that don't, right? Those
Mhm.
of us that have stayed there, and I did for years.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I'm wondering, based on all of this experience that you've had in life, you must think about your childhood often. And I'm wondering if you could go back and talk to your younger self with that fourth grade, reading ability in high school or even in first grade, what would you say to your younger self?
So I'm thinking about writing a book, and it would be like the 5 things I wish I knew in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And basically, I would tell myself the one thing is like there's a voice. We all have that inner voice.
Mhm.
I thought I was the only one that had that inner voice, and I not only did I not think did I think I was the only one that had that inner voice, but I listened to it. So first first page on my book would be everybody has an inner voice. Second page would be something along the lines of you don't have to believe everything it tells you.
Mhm.
You don't have to believe it. You get to decide whether you're going to believe it or not, because that voice can be trying to just keep you safe or keep you from putting yourself out there. And if you're going to keep yourself from putting yourself out there, you're going to be stuck.
Mm, mm. That's
So,
really powerful.
yeah,
Really, really powerful. Well, I can't wait for you to write that book because I think it's going to help so many people. And yeah, and we all really struggle with this. Man, this is just like so fascinating to me. Just incredible. I obviously one of the things that I noticed is that you really encourage people to walk hand in hand with their imposter beyond that fear. I mean, if you could explain to the people listening, what does that actually look like in practice?
so it's not just sometimes it's not just my fear, but
Hmm.
it's just my lack of confidence. And just, when I think to myself, I'm going to write another book, and I was thinking, does anybody want to read another book that I wrote? It's like, I mean, it just keeps popping in. I mean, instantly.
Right.
And then I have to tell myself, okay, you need to just calm down, put that voice aside and just move forward with your plan of a third book. So it's like a dance, it's like a dance. You're dancing, you're constantly dancing with each other,
Yeah.
trying to but bottom line is understanding that you have the narrative of your life,
Yeah. It's so
and
interesting.
that voice is maybe popping in, but you don't have to listen to it.
Right. So you're acknowledging the voice. You're saying,
Yes.
okay, I hear you, I see you,
Mhm.
but I'm choosing to just
Yes.
continue forward regardless.
Yes. 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 Right now, I'm trying to learn how to play piano. I
Yeah.
swear, I sit down to practice, and that voice just pops up instantly. It's like, what are you doing? You should have learned this when you were a kid. You're never going to learn. Like, you haven't gotten it yet. Give up. And I have to just keep telling myself, learning how to play piano is easy and fun. I mean, something so simple as that. Because if I didn't tell myself that, I would close that piano up in an instant.
Hmm.
But me just telling myself learning how to play piano is easy and fun, easy and fun, easy and fun. That keeps me sitting there for that half an hour that I have to practice. Because otherwise, I would have closed that piano up and walked away long time ago.
Well, good for you. I think that's fantastic that you're learning how to play piano, that you're challenging yourself. And I continue to do the same thing. I think, being a lifelong learner, that's
Yeah,
really ultimately what helps people to get to achieve their goals. And, it's okay if you're a little bit late to the party. So what? Like
exactly.
everybody goes
Exactly.
at their own speed, right?
Exactly. But yet, with social media, we're always looking and comparing ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's when I said you also being aware of what you're thinking. When you start thinking that you realize that you're comparing yourself with somebody else,
Hmm.
it's like, hey, come
Yeah.
back to where you're at, and don't worry about what everybody else is doing.
Right. Yeah, I think that happens a lot, especially with college students right now. They're always wondering, am I on the right path with my career, with my major? Or maybe they're looking at their friend. Maybe that guy or that person is on the right path, and I really should be going there. So they're constantly questioning whether they're on the right track or not. And also if they're moving fast enough. That's the other piece too. Am I moving fast enough towards those goals or am I too slow? So I think a lot of the things that you talked about here today, I think will definitely help them. So thank you so
Good,
much for
good.
sharing all of that. If our listeners, if they want to find all of your books, if they want to learn from your work and connect with you, where should they go to find all of this stuff?
So the books, of course, are on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. My
Mhm.
website, armidaespinoza.com. And yeah, I throw a lot of stuff in there. And of course, they could follow me on Facebook or Twitter. But yes,
Fantastic. All right. Well, make sure that you go to the website and check it out. Armida Espinoza, thank you so much for sharing all of this great information with us today. We really appreciate it.
thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me. Just we just need to keep plugging away.
That's right. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Armida today, I want you to like it and I want you to share it with other college students that are feeling some of those same feelings that Armida went through. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.